ladies. Okay, so this is going to be my long and awaited birth story, and this one is very hungry. Oh, so I'm going to be feeding her throughout this video. Okay, so where do I begin? Right, I've actually made a whole load of notes on my phone because it was such an experience that I knew that I wouldn't be able to remember everything. So yeah, bear with me guys, it's going to be a long video. So she was actually due on the 8th of October, and on the 7th of October, if you guys remember on my Instagram, my waters went and I was like, oh my god, I was literally like having a nap, like I wasn't even doing anything, and I suddenly woke up and I was like, oh my god, I feel so wet, and literally pad after pad I ended up having to go to the hospital, and they said that they weren't quite sure if it was actually my waters gone, but then whilst I was there I had like a massive gush and she was like, oh okay, that's fine. She said if you don't start contracting within the next 24 hours, same as Charlie's labour, then we will get you induced. So I really didn't want to be induced this time round because I did with Charlie, and as you know it didn't really go very nicely and I was in a lot of pain. And yeah, so at this time Matt was actually in Reading and he'd got a lift up there, and I knew something was going to happen as soon as he left but the meeting couldn't be, you know, changed or anything. It was like a manager's meeting, and yeah, he had to go. So off he went, and then at about 1 o'clock I said to him, my waters have gone, and he was like, oh my god, do I need to come to the hospital? And I was like, no, my contractions haven't started yet. But then as I was driving to the hospital I got a few pains and I was like, just take a taxi home and just get home and just be here for me please, just in case I go into labour, because you know what third babies are like. You hear, you know, stories about them being delivered in cars and in bathrooms and stuff like that. So yeah, £100 later he was home, and he was feeling actually not very well, so he actually went to bed like really early, like 7 o'clock in the evening. Matt's mum had the kids. Oh, I'm sorry, is my milk coming out too fast? But yeah, Matt wasn't feeling very well. He went to bed and he actually hadn't eaten any dinner because he'd had a big lunch. So, and this is important to the story, I'll tell you in a little bit. So he went to bed, I had like half a pizza, and then I followed him up at about 9 or 10, and I fell asleep until about midnight, and then I woke up. And it was really weird because I was like shaking, like viciously, like shaking like this, and I couldn't work out what was wrong. So I also couldn't get out of bed. It was really strange, like all my muscles were aching and I just felt like I had flu. So I woke Matt up and I was like, Matt, I'm really sorry, but I need you to help me get out of bed. And he was like, okay. So he helped me get on the loo, get back into bed, and I said, I think I've got a temperature. I think I might have an infection from my waters going, right? So at this time we didn't, you know what was going on. So I took some paracetamol and tried to go back to bed, and I couldn't sleep. I probably managed to get about another half an hour. Woke up again, shaking, completely not feeling very well. So at this time, Matt said, look, just ring the labour line and just see what they say. So I rung them, and straight away I got through to someone, and they said, look, it sounds like you're not very well, just come in, we'll give you a full MOT and we'll send you on your way and see, you know, whatever. So we got in the car and I had contractions, very strong contractions, every 3 minutes, lasting about a minute. And if you remember my last videos, I had a lot of prodromal labour, so I was like, oh, this is probably nothing. So by the time I actually got to hospital, I had quite a few pains, and I was like, okay, I'm not sure if this is it, but I'm in a lot of pain right now. Okay, hi guys. So we're at the hospital, things are not really going how I planned. As you know, my waters have gone, and then I woke up at midnight. We tried to like get a little bit of sleep. Oh, I look a funny colour. And oh God, I'm so exhausted. And I had like this really like shaking, like literally like it was horrible. I thought I had flu. I need to open the door because I'm a bit hot. Turn the engine off, please, baby. Thank you. So yeah, so I thought I had like flu or an infection or something. I took the little thermometer strips that they've given me under my tongue, and it said I was fine. I took some paracetamol. It's now 10 minutes past 2. Darling, you've locked the door, I'm still in the car. And I'm having contractions every 3 minutes in the car. Oh God. Okay, we're gonna try and walk now, okay? After I filmed that little bit there, we then made our way across the car park. I was hanging off a lamppost, I was hanging off of like a bike rack thing on the floor. And then we got into hospital, and there's like 2 revolving doors. And Matt was like, are you gonna make it? Should we have a contraction outside first and then walk through? I was like, yeah, let's do that. So I had a contraction, then we got through the double doors, then I got upstairs, the assessment unit. And whilst I was there, she checked me over, and she did like my urine sample, my pulse, my blood pressure, things like that. But at the same time, I was having these really strong contractions, right? Then she checked me, and I was 3 centimetres, but there was a whole load of meconium. There was a whole load of meconium that suddenly shot out when she checked me. So I was like, oh, that's literally my water bath out the window then. And she was like, yeah, I'm sorry. She said, I'm meant to be on the assessment unit today, but I will come with you to labour ward. And I was like, okay. By this point, I was just like, so like focusing on my contractions and breathing through them. And I was just like in my little zone. She got me a bed on the labour ward, and even though I was only 3 centimetres, she said, would you like some gas in there? I was like, yes please, you're so nice, thank you so much. She was like, well, I know you're not really in established labour, but your contractions are coming really, really fast, and they're also very, very long. I was like, yes, I know, I can feel that. So I had some gas, and for about the first sort of 3/4 of an hour, I was really coping well with the gas. I was, you know, the thing is, my contractions, Matt said my contractions were only about a minute apart, and they were lasting 2 minutes long, and it was really, really intense. So it was like I was using the gas and air the whole entire time. So at one point they were like, yeah, you need to, you know, breathe some fresh air. But then when I would breathe the fresh air, I then wouldn't have the pain relief for the next contraction, and then I'd be like, oh my God, and I think at one point I nearly fell off the bed, and it was just a mess. At one point she actually threw up over the side of the bed, and oh my God, that was like not a good moment. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be sick, and I just like threw up all down the side of the bed, and I spat sick all over the midwife, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And yeah, that was like kind of funny, not funny. But then at one point Matt nearly passed out because he was rubbing my back with every contraction, and then suddenly I was like, hey, where's he gone? And he was like sitting in a chair in the corner, and I was like, what are you doing? Come over here and help me. And obviously I found out later that he was literally like so hungry that he nearly passed out, so that was really good. Swaying through the contractions, and she actually couldn't, because of the meconium, they like to monitor you like throughout the whole labour, and she wanted me on my back really, and I was like, please don't make me go on my back, it's hurt, my contractions hurt so much more. And they ended up putting a clip on the baby's head because while I was rocking they couldn't like pick up a trace of her heartbeat. Just before I started pushing, she said, quick, you need to lay on your left side. So I did, and then they listened to her heartbeat and they're like, okay, that's fine. But then I was like, oh, I feel pushy, I feel like I need to push. So I started pushing, and literally within about, I don't know, 5 minutes, like if that, like she was out. It was like the quickest labour I've ever had, and I was in so much shock, and I think she was shocked as well. I was in so much shock. I was so, you know, I couldn't believe that she'd been born. So from start to finish, from me like getting into hospital and actually delivering her was like 2 hours. It was not long at all. Bearing in mind with Harry's labour, I had 7 hours, and then Charlie was 4 hours, and that was induced. She was a natural, spontaneous delivery. So this is kind of where everything sort of goes a little bit wrong, because they said to me like, do you want her skin to skin? I was like, yes please. So as she came out, she went straight onto my chest, and that's when I realised that she wasn't breathing, and she was blue, and she was floppy, and Matt quickly cut the cord, and then they rushed her over to the I think it's called the resuscitaire, because just before I delivered her, she'd said to me, is it okay if I have a baby doctor in here because of the meconium? And I said, yeah, that's fine, like whatever she needs. So as soon as I delivered her, literally she was out and on there. They literally whisked her away and then she was gone. After that, I literally lay on the bed in a puddle of blood and meconium and mess, whilst we were both looking over like at the resuscitaire thing, and waiting for her to do that like massive cry, right? Okay, we've had her, but they're suctioning her because she's got meconium in her lungs and she's a bit floppy. And they were literally, there was 4 of them, and they were working on her for 40 minutes and she didn't cry once. She was barely breathing. They had to suction her lungs and then like put an oxygen mask on her to like force oxygen into her lungs, and she just wasn't doing anything. She was like not really making an effort to breathe. It says on my notes, I've read it all, there was like no effort to like breathe. But at the time I was kind of lying there like, is she okay? And then they were like, she's trying, and I was like, okay, so is she alive? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And then I was just sort of like sitting there like, okay, waiting for my baby to be brought to me, and it never happened. And weird because I was kind of waiting for them to just like suction, a little bit of oxygen, and then she'd come back to me, right? All lovely and pink.
Hi. I'm shocked by it all.
And I said to them, do you need to take her to NICU? And they were like, yeah, we do, I'm really sorry. And I was like, no, that's fine, like whatever she needs, just please, just do it. And then me and Matt sat across the room from each other for 2.5 hours, and we were like, huh, so that didn't go to plan. What do we do now? Hi guys, so we have just delivered her and they had to work on her for ages with oxygen. So she's not very well. She's actually in NICU at the moment. There's a lot of like meconium. So when I went to get checked at a hospital because I couldn't stop shaking, they said there's a lot of meconium in the waters. And then because of that, when we came in here, I'll show you around the room. There was like a huge thing, little baby lamp and everything. So yeah, no tears, just little greys. But yeah, she's not doing so good. So I'm just gonna have some toast, and Matt's gone to get my bags. The labour itself was traumatic, and I think I was only in labour for like maybe 2 hours maximum. So yeah, used lots of gas and air. I'll update you guys in a bit. But yeah, she's been born 3:40 and we're now 4:40. So they tried to get her to cry for a bit, but she's just like grunting. So yeah, see you in a bit, guys. Oh, and I missed a bit. So as she was being like all oxygenated and whatever, my placenta wasn't coming out. Obviously I went into shock, and whilst the midwife wasn't looking, I actually tugged it and it just came out because she was going to give me the injection, and I was like, no, please don't do that. I didn't have it with the other 2. I don't need it, it will come out. So within about 10 minutes I just sort of like pulled it and it just came out. Yeah, so she was in NICU. We were now staring across the room from each other. I think we got some toast and I had like a quick shower or something. They checked my urine levels, but I couldn't really pee. And then we kind of just hung out in that room for ages until about 6 o'clock, something like that, where we were allowed to go down to NICU and see her for the first time. So the first time we saw her, she was breathing really, really fast. I'll insert some footage here. And it was really quite scary. Her resps were so fast and it was obvious that she was really, really sick. But at the time we didn't know the extent of it, we just thought that it was meconium aspirate. So after the consultant saw her, which was literally like within minutes, he said, I'm not happy with her respiratory rate, she needs to be on a ventilator. So they ushered us back to the ward and they gave her some morphine to like paralyse her, and they put a tube down her throat and it breathed for her so that she didn't have to work at breathing and she could work on getting better. So although, you know, that was obviously what she needed, it was ridiculously upsetting. And every time I went to visit her, I just cried, and it was so sad. So yeah, so she was on the ventilator now, which was breathing for her. She looked so much more relaxed. She looked like she was on the beach, like sunbathing, like laying on her back. She looked really relaxed. But obviously, you know, these tubes were keeping her alive, which was really scary. So then we spent 2 days in NICU. So I didn't actually get to hold her or breastfeed her for 2 days, which was really hard. So while she was having all the antibiotics for her infection, I was on the ward, which was like away from her, pumping every 2 hours, my colostrum, and then putting it in the fridge, and then taking it up to NICU, and they were feeding her through a feeding tube, but that wasn't until like day 3 or 4, because she was nil by mouth for the first 2 days, and she was just on fluids. And the fluids had like sugar and potassium and things like that to like make sure she wasn't hungry. But on day 2 I realised that she was like gagging on her tube and she didn't want it, and she was holding her oxygen really well. Like we were on 40%, then we went to 25, and then we went to 20. So they were happy to take her off it, and she was breathing on her own, and it was amazing. And then I got to hold her for the first time. And that was amazing. Literally the nurse was like, right, do you want to hold her? Here you go. And I was like, oh my god. It was surreal. She was like, I just need to change your sheets, so here, hold your baby. And I was like, okay. Oh my god, I'm holding my baby for the first time. This is really weird. And then she like grabbed my phone off me, and she was taking photos, and I was like, this is amazing. Oh my god, so this is the first time I'm holding my baby. Like, completely different when I had the boys. It was unreal. Wasn't it? Yes. It was. You gave us a scare. Yes. So also one of the things that we didn't get to do was change her bum for the first time and do her nappy. And after I held her, she was like, do you want to do a nappy? And I was like, okay, like this is amazing. So I did her bum for the first time, and I had like these little like water, like sterile water with like cotton wool balls and everything. Oh, it was so amazing. One thing I forgot to mention was, because I was in labour, when we actually came to the hospital, I didn't think I was in labour, so I didn't bring any of my bags. So all of the stuff that I had to like get me through labour, I didn't have, because they were in the car. Matt didn't have time to go down and get them, because I probably would have delivered her whilst he was in the car park. So I had nothing. I had no fan, I had no cool strips for my forehead, nothing. I got to hold her, I got to change her bum, that was amazing. She was still being fed through her feeding tube with my milk, and she was like trying to latch, but like not really, because she wasn't really hungry. Like if you've ever breastfed before, you know what a baby does when they're not really hungry. They just sort of go, and then just like nothing, like they don't really suck, they don't really latch, like nothing, they're just not really bothered. So yeah, that was a bit heartening to begin with, because I was like, oh, she doesn't want me, like, and I was just sort of like a bit self-doubtful. But then she got better amazingly quickly. She didn't need to be in her incubator anymore. She had like an open top one with a heated pad underneath, and then she didn't even need the heated pad anymore. So we went to high dependency, which was amazing, and it was so much more relaxed, and there was no bleeping or anything, and it was just lovely.